Okay, everyone, welcome back to Salt City Counseling. Once again, my name's Scott Carter. I am a licensed therapist. In this video, I don't know, it might be a little bit controversial. It might not. I want to talk about the effects of the pandemic and the virus on our mental health. And I've been reluctant to do this topic just because it's a point of frustration and challenge for me. Week in and week out, I have a front row seat to a lot of the challenges that people are facing in their lives that are vastly exacerbated by the quarantines and the lockdowns having to do with C19, the Rona, the pandemic. And I feel like if you're watching the news, you only hear one side of this story. And I've even had some people in my personal life, friends, acquaintances, just say, people want to end the lockdown only because they want to make a profit, and that's really wrong. Shame on them. And I'm just going to play the devil's advocate here because I think I have to believe that a lot of those people that are kind of expressing that particular narrative are not hearing the full story. Truth of the matter is, it's my local area has had a ongoing mental health crisis. Our rates of suicide are super high. We have high rates of opiate addiction. We have high rates of suicide attempts, autism. We have, divorce around here is crazy. We have broken families. The family court system is backed up. We don't have nearly enough mental health professionals in my local area to meet the needs or serve the population. And that's largely because about 15 to 20 years ago, my state made the requirements to practice therapy so high and ridiculous that people just don't want to do it anymore, and they made it difficult for people to come in from out of state. They're changing a lot of that now so that it's not so difficult, because we have a great need around here for mental health professionals and not enough that are willing to do it. That being said, the C19 situation has vastly exacerbated a lot of these issues. Week in and week out, I work with people who I see higher rates of suicide. I see the domestic violence. I see the higher rates of child abuse. I see the rates of kids who are cutting, kids who are suicidal, running away, drugs, family fighting, kids completely failing out of school. I mean, you want to talk about, it was difficult, kids were struggling in school before this whole thing hit. And at least around here, our teachers were required to improvise their curriculum and their teaching, at a moment's notice. And I cannot tell you how many kids failed miserably the rest of the school year. Just completely failed the school year. And that puts them behind. I mean, prior to the C19 situation, a lot of people talked about, the issues with equality. And I promise you, this is going to put put us way behind in terms of classes. The kids who are in lower socioeconomic status brackets. The school they have fallen so behind in school at this point. It's staggering. And the school districts reported that thousands of kids never logged on to their online school and just end up failing everything at virtually all ages. Parents were left to try and motivate their kids at home to get their kids to do their online school. Parents, frankly, don't have these skills. I don't know if they ever did, but they don't now, to get their kids motivated to do their online school. But kids are depressed. If they're home all day, they're not interacting with their friends, they're not they're not getting physical movement, they're just sitting in front of screens all day. It has had a significant detriment to their mental health. I've had a few kids that I just was worried that they would just decline. Sometimes kids would leave and I think, well, I hope I see that kid again. Even if they're not expressing suicidality, even if they don't have a plan for suicide, they're completely nihilistic. They don't want to get up tomorrow for anything. And so, domestic violence. We've seen people, the victims of domestic violence, because of the shut-ins and the lockdowns. When people are shut in for long periods of time, they become aggressive. They become hostile. And this is just the story that I really believe needs to be told about this situation. It's not black and white. We can't just shut down the economy and expect there to not be major detrimental consequences. My local area is talking about having another shutdown. You know, if it continues to get worse, we're going to do this again, and potentially cancel school. I can't even begin to describe how bad that is for kids. I mean, I don't have the words. I got kids who have been playing sports and were hoping to get scholarships, and if they cancel school and just do it all online, they're worried they're gonna kiss their athletic scholarships goodbye. You know, I mean, their future, their hopes, their dreams, the things that they've been working for, flushed down the toilet. And I'm not saying that there are easy answers. I'm not saying that there's the iceberg needs to be flipped and we need to go heavy in the other direction. But what I am saying is there's just another side to the story here. The effect of mental health. We already had major issues on our hands, and this whole situation has just greatly exacerbated it. So, as a mental health professional that works on the front lines, I've worked in the trenches for almost 20 years, man. Week in and week out, this is my work. This is what I do. I sit with these people. I look them in the eyes. I mean, even just yesterday, like I'm the clinical director at where I work, and we had someone who was reportedly a patient that was really, really struggling, and there was a fear of suicide and was only doing online therapy, and because of the virus. And as a clinical director, I said, look, this is an essential service. We cannot lose this person to suicide if we could have saved their life to have them come in person. And I did that at one point. I saw lots of kids just taking an absolute nosedive. I was doing online therapy. It's not effective. It's not effective for a lot of people, especially young people. Teenagers, online therapy, not effective. It doesn't. It's really, really not useful to me. And so I had several kids that were just taking a nosedive. And at one point I just said, hey, you know what? This is an essential service. I would like for you to come in. And I made the recommendation for them to come in. I gave them a reason to get up, get out, go somewhere. And it had a drastic, I was able to get these kids out of that nosedive and pull them out of it and see some drastic improvements several times. So there's just another side of this whole thing, and I just think it's really important that as a society, I wish we put way, way, way more emphasis on mental health. But speaking of work, I've really got to get to the office, so thank you for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and all of that, and we'll see you next time.